Have rocked with us for all 5 days of the summit. We're almost at the end, but of course we had to save the best for last. Caping hard for Black women. I am so honored to have the first male in the lineup in the history of the Blaze Virtual Summit.
Groundbreaker.
The groundbreaker.
Yeah.
Y'all should look at his socials and his LinkedIn. He uses it a lot. But he is a phenomenal co-founder and CEO, the CEO of Hello Tractor, which is essentially bringing Uber to the farms in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, they essentially take an app that the historically disenfranchised can leverage to get tractor mechanization on their farms without having to use manual labor and without having to pay $35,000 for a tractor. Jehiel is esteemed all over the globe. He was recognized by Foreign Policy magazine as the top 100 global thinkers. He actually served during the Obama administration on their advisory council for doing business in Africa. He was the subcommittee chair for technology, and I've had the honor over the last year of working with him in Hello Tractor, really helping them to construct this pay-as-you-go finance solution and really bring access, right, to people who really deserve it across the continent. So I'm excited to have him in this conversation today, and just know that we are really going to challenge you today, right? Because while we are learning a lot about speaking up and having a voice and having ownership in Web 3.0, and making sure you create room for other people, there will be times in your journey, case in point, where you have to intersect with people who don't look like you, right? With people who don't share your same experiences, and still advocate for yourself, right? Still advocate for the women that continue to be marginalized within the margins, right? So we're gonna talk about our own experiences and our own thoughts around how we can, just rise above those things. Jehiel, if you could tell the people who you are, some about you, and if you could share the intersections of some women in your life that have helped to mold you into who you are today.
Sure. And thank you, Casey, for having me as a part of the summit. Really proud of you and the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
With Blaze. And I think there's a lot of overlap in our work. We work in sub-Saharan Africa, but a big focus of our work is providing opportunities to those who live on the margins of society, of well-established economic structures. While we focus in Africa, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, from the U.S. But I was raised in a household like many with a strong mother who was the matriarch of the family and instilled in us. I got 3 siblings. The importance of first of all, realizing that we all have value. And even when you're in spaces where you might not be represented well, your time in that space is to the benefit of those that are also in that space. They're not doing you a favor. And I think we were always raised to see how we spend our time and talent as, at a very bare minimum, an even trade. And so that's kind of some of the guidance that I brought with me on my journey, and hopefully some things we'll touch on in this conversation.
Dope. I met his mom. She is super phenomenal. So hats off to her. Hats off to his incredible wife, and his beautiful girls. He's surrounded by women, which is probably why it's easy for Jehiel to be receptive to feedback and challenge around, creating more and more space for women. Anybody that knows me knows that, I'm gonna raise my hand in a heartbeat. But the people on the other side of the table, it's not always easy for them to see beyond their own experiences, right? Or to see beyond their own privilege at times, right? And feel like they're giving something up, right, for other people. So Jehiel, one thing that was surprising for me when I entered the ag space, I had played in the tech space a bit because that's who I structured loans for in corporate America. I was definitely heavily immersed in the finance space where it is a white male dominated industry. But coming into the ag space, working with, Pay As You Go and Hello Tractor, I did not realize in the beginning that it was also a very male dominated industry. And not to say that women aren't doing the work on the ground, because they are. A lot of them are, right? But I didn't see us, right, in the advertisements. I didn't see us in the boardrooms or in the leadership spaces, etc. What is your take, I guess, to start, on this imbalance that exists right now for women in the ag space, and what are some of the things that you've learned that can be done to kind of bring the balance?
Well, I think, first of all, you got to be intentional. And this is an area where I personally had to grow. I thought if you just try and create conditions for parity economically, the gender piece would take care of itself. And what I realized, and what you confronted me about, was the importance of being incredibly intentional in how you even target who your customer should be, and not make assumptions about who belongs in a space, who deserves a certain opportunity based on past precedent, because then you're just reinforcing a bias. And I think back to when we were setting up our credit program and having a clear gender imbalance in who we were targeting for financing, under the assumption that men wanted to be tractor owners but women didn't. It's embarrassing to think about it, and certainly to share it publicly, but that was a bias that I brought unconsciously to the table. And you confronted me about it and said, hey, look, actually, women are overwhelmingly the growers in Africa. Globally, there are more women farmers than men. And oftentimes they're at the very back of the line when it comes to opportunities and accessing loans to own tractors or inputs. They get shortchanged when it's time to sell their production into the market. And you confronted me about that, and so we had to reshape how we target potential customers. And the end result was just overwhelming success in building out a fantastic pipeline of borrowers who are now almost exclusively women. And that's exciting to see. And that comes with a lot of business upside. And so even when I talk to people about, some of the challenges that we had within Hello Tractor in maintaining that gender balance, I like to talk about it with commercial framing. I like to talk about the business upside of focusing on women. Women who tend to default at a lower rate than men. Women who, because they've been marginalized, when they are given the opportunity, outperform their male counterpart. These aren't talking points for ESG or diversity and inclusion departments of corporations. These are conversations that need to happen in the commercial teams when you want to drive commercial outcomes and remain competitive. This is where you need to focus. And as professionals, as entrepreneurs, as professionals working in large and small corporations and businesses, as you think about yourself and your role in these spaces, understand that you are the value add, right? You are the person bringing something new and unique. I am proud to say that at least at Hello Tractor, we now have more women on our team than men, and the performance of the company has continued to grow as we maintain that bias towards women and not against women. And I think you got to bring that confidence with you. I certainly do. When I'm going into an investor meeting or I'm going into a partnership meeting, I know I have a strong army of capable women supporting this business objective, and I know they're going to outperform the male counterparts that are on the other side of that table, right? And the same is true for the customers that we target. And that's a commercial discussion. We're not doing favors over here. We're driving business results by maintaining that positive gender bias towards women.
Super dope. Like, this is caping hard for Black women, right? And I love how Jehiel said, like, this isn't some D&I stuff on the periphery, right? Like, this isn't some PR good stuff to say about ESG. Like, this is what it looks like when a CEO puts equality in the fabric of their company, right? In the culture of their company. And what I would say, and echoing what Jehiel said, to you as Black female entrepreneurs who will lead the world. You absolutely will. You already have what it takes. don't be afraid, right? Like, even if you are, do it scared, right? Like, you're gonna have to go in these spaces that don't look like you still today, right? And speak up and say what's the obvious to us that is not the obvious to a boardroom full of men, right? These are going to be your partners, they're going to be your bankers, they're going to be your mentors, they're going to be the people that you consult, etc. But yeah, it is so worth it, so that in the next 40 years our daughters can have a different experience than we're having today. Super dope, Jehiel.
Yeah. Actually, let me add something too, because you touched on something.
Yeah.
You know, the importance of having representation for our world is, I mean, that piece I think we touched on. But the truth is that women have always been leading, right? Now, women don't always get the credit, right? In business, even if you look at the black community in the US and the advancements that we've made across all of our major movements, there were women spearheading and pushing those movements forward. And overwhelmingly the reason why we've made those advancements. Now, they don't get the credit. They're not always the ones out front. So I think that's another area where, you know, there should be some reassurance. I think when you think about the successful track record that women already have in executing and actually getting stuff done, right? Now, I think the tweak or the hack is get credit for the work that you're already doing, right?
Yep.
And so anyway, I just wanted
100%.
to
Like,
add that
drop a 1 in the chat if y'all still with us, because we in the vein right now. We about to go somewhere in a second. Drop a 1 in the chat if you are still with us. I see y'all. All right, so the hack is making sure that women get the credit, right? And that's why this conversation, Cape and Harm for Black women, is so important, because while we are dope, while statistically we are starting business at the fastest clip of any other demographic of women-owned businesses, we're the only demographic as black people who have women starting more businesses than men, right, in the same race. We don't get the credit, right? We are the heartbeat of the movement, but it is men on center stage, right? When you're talking about, you know, from a political standpoint, when you're talking about from an equity or social justice standpoint, etc. Which means that we need other people that don't look like us, right? Yeah. To cape hard for us. So I want to answer the questions in a lot of people's minds, because I know it, right? I've spoken with you, I've experienced it myself. What do we do in situations where the person we're helping, right, the people we're working for, the people we're consulting, don't get it, and they refuse to get it, and they want us to play the game? You know, they want us to do the subtle things, like just go ahead and grab the coffee instead of telling the person off at the other side of the table that assume we were the secretary, right? When they want us to play the role of, you know, when somebody says something that is a macro aggression in a meeting, such as, oh, I thought Casey was a man, you know, I'm surprised you're a woman, right? Some folks are uncomfortable with us challenging partners, because to them it is, you know, well, that's less revenue, right? You know, Jehiel, I want to hear your take on this. I will say mine first. You know, in my business, right, where I do coach black women and I do consult other companies and I do speak for companies, right, Amazons of the world, colleges of the U.S., etc. I work with the willing, and I am willing to walk away 100% of the time or put up boundaries and say, I will not do business with this person, or I will not interact with this person, because I'm going to protect my peace. I'm going to protect my integrity. I'm not going to waste my energy trying to change somebody's mind about me. I'm going to work with the willing, right? So my stance on that is to be radical enough to say no, even if it means somebody's sponsoring you, but you can't use certain words, right? You need to say people of color instead of black, right? Like these small little things that make our attempts, right, diluted, right? I'm willing to walk away 100% of the time and work with the willing, because I know there is so much brilliance that's pent up inside of us and nobody's giving us a chance. You know what I'm saying? I know that we're already 10 times as good as other people. How do I know? Because we had to be to get the entry-level jobs we got in the first place. Like, we had to be 20 times as good to get the promotion, right? So for me, you know, the answer to that is moving horizontally more, right, and working with the willing, because they code anyway, right, and then rising and creating a new precedent. But how would you say women should handle the situation when they are often in environments where people don't get it, they refuse to get it?
Yeah, well, I think it's hard to give an opinion specifically on the gender side, because I'm not I'm not a woman, but I will say in these difficult moments, I think self-awareness first of all helps a lot. Knowing where your boundaries are help a lot, because something that might be a trigger for me may not be a trigger for Casey, or may not be a trigger for you. But if somebody is crossing that boundary and they're doing something or saying something that is a trigger, you have to have the self-awareness to confront it in real time.
Yeah.
And that's where leaning into conflict, and I'm big on lean into conflict.
Woo!
I don't have a problem telling somebody, and what bothers me may not bother the next person.
That's good.
But the things that do bother me, I take enjoyment in letting somebody know, hey, you crossing the line, right? And embrace that. And sometimes, you know, what might seem like it should be a trigger for you may not be, right? It really depends on the person, and that's where that self-awareness comes in. And you should really sit with yourself and say, I know I'm going into a difficult situation. I know, you know, I might not be well received in this situation, and there are certain things that I need to get out this situation, but I have boundaries, and this is what they are. Because when you don't set those clear boundaries, and when you don't make it clear to yourself and others what your boundaries are, when people cross those boundaries and you allow that, you have to live with that. Like that sticks with you beyond the moment, right?
Yep.
And I don't care what the opportunity was, it is never worth the cost of your integrity and your character, right? And so just having a very clear understanding of what that is, and for everybody is different. I'm not going to talk about it publicly, but my triggers are very unique to me and my experiences growing up, low income, in a kind of urban environment where there's so many tropes thrown around about the people who come from those environments. And when somebody triggers me, I take delight in checking them. And I think, but I think anybody who kind of settles on like, okay, these are gonna be my boundaries. Don't trade those boundaries and allow people to trample on those boundaries, because you'll carry that experience with you, and I guarantee you, 10 times out of 10, it won't be worth it. And so that would be my feedback. I've had experiences. I come from a similar background, worked in banking, and I remember getting into a physical altercation. And this is such a ridiculous story. I'm not even gonna go into detail, but I remember getting into a physical altercation with somebody in my office who was being blatantly racist to not even me, to one of my colleagues. It was two black people in the office. And this person was being very derogatory and just blatantly racist. And I confronted him about it, and we got into a physical altercation. And I took so much delight in that engagement. Now, it hurt me professionally, but when it comes to my integrity, I still think back on that moment with so much ridiculous pride. Okay, now you should not do that. Because you might get arrested. However, I didn't, and but I think it's a story that I like to reference, at least in time. I don't really share it much, but I like to reference it because it speaks to the importance of maintaining boundaries and putting integrity first.
Yeah, that's so good, Jehiel, and I just want to say this as I'm feeling it. You know, this is leadership, right? Like vulnerability has to be a part of the leadership that we embody as black leaders, right? As black business owners, as black global thought leaders, right? Because the status quo won't do, right? It was Andre Lord who said, you know, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. So if you keep on playing the game, if you keep on code switching, if you keep acting like this stuff doesn't re-traumatize you and re-trigger you, right? Like the same systems that are in place will continue to be in place, right? It was vulnerability that led to tough conversations that Jehiel and I had when, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm just not seeing enough of us. Like, what is this, right? And it was vulnerability that allowed him to respond in a way, right? Because he trusted me, right? Like these words don't come up enough in leadership, right? But like like these are the things that legends are made of, right? Like these are the things that legions will follow, right? Because they feel something like that is the audacity we have to have when we're going into these spaces, you know, leading with vulnerability enough that we create trust, right? Because when somebody does not look like you, I'm gonna tell y'all this, you know, and some of y'all know, right? When somebody doesn't look like you, right, and you don't know that they truly empathize with your experiences, right? You don't know if they truly get, you know, what's at the heart of what your personal mission is. It is only trust. Mm-hmm. It is only trust that'll get you to go all in with them and them to go all in with you, right? So, you know, for a long time, you know, Black women especially, because we've been the last room on the ladder, right? We have been so guarded, right? And we have been so closed off, and we've been so hard to read, justifiably so, right? That we limit our partnership ability, we limit our impact ability because, you know, like we don't know how to grip people in a way that they follow us, you know, we don't know how to grip people in a way where we change their minds, not because, you know, in traditional corporate sense, we just keep, you know, working for free trying to get somebody, you know, but literally like we strike them at the core, right? Where a man all of a sudden says, oh my gosh, like I didn't even, I was making assumptions. Yeah, let's try this out. Let's test it and see what sticks to the wall, right? So I just want to underscore that because I think that's a big part of who Jehiel is as a leader. You know, that's one reason I trust him as much as I do, right? And it's a big part of the way that I lead. Like I always, they laugh at me a lot because sometimes we're in a business meeting, I'm like, man, that's so deep. Like I feel it right here, and I gotta say it, right? Because that means something to me, right? Thank you.
And this, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for giving us a platform. I think the piece that I'll add to what you mentioned, Casey, is when you do allow yourself to kind of live in that truth, mm-hmm. be vulnerable enough to say, hey, you know, what you're saying, and it does take trust even to be vulnerable and share what you said is hurtful. You may not you may not realize this, but what you said was hurtful, and I'm not gonna stand for that because of how it makes me feel. I think two things happen. Number one, you don't have to live with the baggage of being in spaces where you're not completely accepted. Number one, so that's a benefit. And then number two, you start to naturally filter people, places to protect your own mental health and well-being by just saying, hey, I told you how I feel. I told you that your actions created that feeling, and now you have a choice. You can change, or we don't have to engage with each other. Right? And what you'll realize is there's a lot of good people in this world. There's some not so good people, mm-hmm. relative to who you are and what you need, mm-hmm. right? And you have to start to do the filtering, and as you get better and better at that filtering process, you start to whittle down the people that you engage with, and you start to optimize the time that you spend on people that matter.
Say that.
Right? That you're in sync with, that you can share with, and be comfortable being vulnerable with, and only then can you even grow, right? Mm-hmm. And so why waste time with folks that aren't going to give you that space and that courtesy of being truly who you are, and because ultimately it's going to hurt you, it's going to hurt your growth, and to be honest, it's not even going to help them, right? It's not even going to help them because they just put a cap on your greatness.
That's right.
And so they can't even get as much out of you. And
that's
so
right.
Just, you know, again, lean into that conflict.
For real though.
Don't, you know, I'm embarrassed by, let me correct something. I'm embarrassed by how far that situation went. And the only reason it went that far was because I let that person make small comments and these microaggressions added up, mm-hmm. and it reached a tipping point to where it was no longer a small thing. Right. For me, it was a big thing. And I overreacted versus catching the microaggression right there and saying, hey, here's my boundary.
That's good.
Don't do that.
That's good.
Or I'm going to remove myself from the space. Because I'm talented. I can go somewhere else.
That's
right? I have options, and we all have options.
That's right.
And we all have value that we can bring. But does that person get to benefit from your value? Mm-hmm. If they choose to live within the boundaries that you set, yes, they can. And if they don't, we should part ways.
That's so good. If any of y'all were waiting for permission, right? We're waiting for permission to show up. I ain't gonna say authentically, because they're overusing that word over there in LinkedIn land. I'm gonna say in honesty, right? If any of y'all were hiding from being labeled as the angry black woman, as if you don't have something to be angry about, come on now. This is your permission slip. This is your permission slip, right? Take up space. I mean, all of the space, like anywhere that you operate. I don't care if it's at home, right? Anywhere that you operate, take up space, be seen, truly seen, right? Let those guards down, right? Be vulnerable, give people a chance to help you, give people a chance to love you. I always go back to an analogy with Big Mama now, right? Big Mama, we knew she was so strong. You know, Big Mama had so much love in her heart, you know, but I am absolutely sure that when Big Mama died on her deathbed, you know, I am absolutely sure that she died underprotected, undersupported, underseen, right? Because she never asked, right? My big mama, my great grandmother never asked for help with anything, but I know she was tired because she was helping all of us. She was finding money for all of us. She was cooking for all of us. She was bringing people off of the streets, you know, for all of us, right? But she never opened her mouth to say what she needed. You know, I know that Big Daddy beat Big Mama, but she stayed with him until she died. And after she died, he got redemption. He got saved. And to this day, I know my family look at me sideways, but to this day, I don't think the price was worth it, right? Because she needed better. She deserved better. After I experienced domestic violence for myself, I literally thought of Big Mama in the moment when he was hit. I was like, this shit is horrible, you know? So we owe it to ourselves today, to real time with the people that we love, with our family members, with our co-workers, with our partners, to say real time what we need, right? Real time, you know, how we feel we should be treated. Give them an opportunity to, and I'm telling you, you're gonna be so surprised. Give them an opportunity to love you better, to support you better, to show up for you better, to cape harder for you, right? And those that don't, like we both iterated and reiterated over and over again, you have full license to walk away. Work with the willing. Like there are so many cold people waiting in the wings, dying for you to show up. Literally dying for you to show up. If the internet and all this stuff we're talking about with Web3, etc., if it has shown me anything, it is that there are people that have been out there left dormant, waiting for somebody like you with your voice to show up. And Web3 gives us the opportunity to serve those niches directly. No middlemen, no centralization getting in the way, no algorithms barring us from no gatekeepers, right? So do that. I thank y'all for rocking with us. Jehiel, thank you so much. So much for all of the gems. You are so powerful. I respect you so much. That's all we got. Any last words?
Well, the feeling is mutual. Thank you for the platform and allowing me the opportunity to share. I'm inspired, and I'm looking forward to seeing your growth and the growth of this movement.
Yeah.
We're not asking for permission. That was yesterday. Today's a new day.
Woo! Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
All right, y'all. Enjoy the last few sessions. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Keep going, sis. All right, my people, how y'all feeling after that? How are y'all feeling after that? And I want to talk to you. We intentionally have a break right now. The summit is coming to an end. Oh, Aaliyah said full. Samia said yes. Empowered. Raise your hand. I want to talk to you. I want to dialogue with you. The summit is coming to an end. And I do not want y'all to retreat to safety. I don't. Jehiel Oliver is the CEO of my largest consulting client. I consult Hello Tractor. Blaze Group LLC consults Hello Tractor. We designed a revolutionary financial product for their company that has already been, over 1 million out there. We're doing another 3 million soon. And what we talked about is the way that I show up with that client, meaning they know good and well that when any of their clients or their partners talk to me crazy, they already know Casey not with it. We're not doing business with you. Not if she's going to be involved, or they will insert themselves to face off. I do not put money over my integrity. I do not put labels over the advancement of Black women, right? Those are the things that we unpack. That was real when Jehiel said, Casey confronted me about XYZ. I sure did. I sure did. Because we cannot assume that Black women or that women, period, don't want tractors to work their 100-acre fields like our ancestors we talked about earlier this morning. We cannot assume that women do not just need to see themselves in advertisements in order to feel protected and shown up for and caked hard for, right? So I intentionally, and this was the first male to ever grace the stage because I'm so serious about protecting Black women. This is always going to be a safe space for you all, right? But I needed to show you the importance of holding the people that you are working beside, holding them accountable as well. I promise you it will not cost you everything. I promise you. It is the very thing that will make you a global force because you're already ready today. And I believe and I hope, right, that the transparency that Jehiel shows that he is human. He has not figured it all out, but he embraces, right? He embraces that type of direction and feedback, right? Because he needs us, right? He said, y'all are the best customers. He said, man, these people doing better in their loans than anybody else, right? So show up, take up space. But I want to hear from you, right? Because literally, y'all, in 3 sessions, it's over. And it will be your opportunity to take everything that is in your belly right now out into the world and to build and to expand and to speak, okay? 2 more sessions. And then I'm doing a closing speech and it's over, okay? So I want to hear from you right now. What are your reactions to that particularly, right? Was it helpful? Any epiphanies, etc.? Aaliyah, I'm handing you the mic, mama.
Y'all can hear me? Okay, I'm full off of that. Like I said, I've always been very, very loud. And I do lean into confrontation, but since I'm a ghetto girl, excuse me, I am a trench baby. Like I'm from the west side of Chicago. I don't play that. Don't play with me. I had to learn how to be comfortable with checking people in corporate America because the angry Black woman stigma was so strong over my life, and this had been generations before me. This is my grandmother. This is my great grandmother. Like, your grandma crazy, your great grandma crazy, So I was raised up hearing that, like when you check people, they be like, "Woo, she crazy," but I learned like walking in my power, being who I am, standing firm on who I am. You gonna respect me, and if you don't respect me, I don't have no problem removing myself because I've never removed myself from a room that I was not welcome in, and God didn't take me somewhere better. So I'm strong in my divinity that He gonna carry me every time. So yeah, you gonna handle me with respect. So that just gave me a little more empowerment and showed me like, moving in that does not make me an angry Black woman. And even if I am pissed off, I do got every right to be because you ain't gonna play with me. So being that and growing in my power and my intellect, my voice, like even to hear it from a Black man, because when we check them, they call us crazy, So even to hear that, it settled something in me that made me feel like I'm doing the right thing. Like, okay, we here. I checked you. I handled it politely. And even if I'm not handling it politely, I don't got to make it easy for you to chew. You're going to swallow it anyway. Like, that's just that. So I felt empowered by that. I really appreciate y'all for bringing us that. That was much love for me in my loud ghetto trench girl,
I love that, Aaliyah. I love that. And like, your representation is needed. Like, be clear. Respectability politics is bullshit. Let's be very clear, because I promise you, even if you have your nails clipped down low and you wear flesh tone stockings and you speak, oh God, this is amazing.
Okay.
Right? You are still a Black woman. You are still a Black woman. So I applaud you, Aaliyah, for showing up as your entire self. And you're exactly right. Even if you are angry, you are justified in being so, right? So take up space, keep doing what you're doing, sis. I love the energy of the ancestors that are in you. And I'm excited, sis, to work with you after this.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Casey.
Super dope. Super, super dope. Let's keep this rolling again, right? And I need this feedback, right? Some of y'all have been rocking with us for a while, Nina and some other people, right? And so, I really take feedback to heart. I will flip, change, squash anything, right? If it doesn't edify the community, and try something different. And this is the first time we brought a male up, right? So this feedback is very, very helpful. It does not mean we're going to keep doing it, right? But this felt necessary. And I just want to understand whether it was effective, right, in the first place. Mallory, you are up next, Mamacita.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say that was really, really powerful. Because I feel like, ever since I was a little girl, it had always been me and my mom, and it was really the women in the family, but I had never experienced a man who had my back and who was there for me. Because me and my father really just now started to mend our relationship. But from a young age, I didn't have that all the time. And so to see that was really good. To see that there are men who go hard for Black women and who are not afraid to stand up for them, and who are not afraid to speak up against the injustice that we go through every day. So that was really good. And I really felt that. So thank you so much for having that. And this summit was very, very powerful and very eye-opening for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sis. Those are really good tears. Those are really, 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 really good tears. Because, so Mallory, the only way through it is through it. Going over it doesn't heal it. Going under it doesn't sideways. The only way through it is through it. And I don't take for granted that you just articulated those words on a stage, knowing that you are in front of thousands, right? Like that is evidence of something on the inside of you blooming that was always there, sis. So I encourage you to keep opening your mouth. I believe that the vulnerability that you are showing in this moment is evidence of your ability to continue to love and continue to try and to let in the good people that are absolutely going to continue coming on your path. And I just send you so much love. I want to stay connected to you. I love your spirit. And I thank you so much for sharing, Mamacita. Thank you so, so much. All right, y'all, we're going to keep this rolling. This is really good feedback. Again, I take this to heart because if it doesn't edify you, ain't no point. Ain't no point in it. Dope. I'm going to bring up Samia now. Samia, any reactions, reflections? What did you feel about this segment, which is very different, right, from anything we've done in the summit thus far?
First, let me say, I put it in a chat. That's my daughter. And I didn't know she was going to say that. I had already raised my hand. So I'm a little like, ooh, Casey, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I put in the chat, if for nothing else, for my baby to see what she just seen and for her to open up and talk, because she doesn't talk. She's just like me. And I can't thank you enough for just having this platform. I had no clue. She's in the other room. I had no clue that she was going to say that. So thank you. I can go on, but let me stay on track. All right. Casey, just go to somebody else. I can't even get it out right now.
It's okay, Mama. Take your time, and if tears flow, that's okay. Take up space, sis. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm a persevere, and then I'm gonna go downstairs and hug my baby. That was powerful. I did not look at the schedule in full. So I know you kind of mentioned it before we went to it, and I don't know what I was expecting. I was just like, okay, that's nice. No, I think hearing his perspective and his authority was enlightening. I needed to hear everything he said. And it felt like extra support. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt like a little bit more to it. And yeah, he was dope. He was dope. And I needed to see something beyond what the status quo or the media wants to reflect about a Black man. You're seeing someone that was honest and had integrity and is succeeding and thriving in what he does and bringing you on side to become even better. Because some males, some men, it's all about them. So having a female on board that's a whole nother ball game. It's like, to some, they view it as a decrease or something that they shouldn't do. But thank you for having him on. I hope you continue to, if nobody else, at least have him. He was dope, and I learned a lot from that. So thank you, Casey.
Beautiful. That means everything to me. Everything. I mean, from the point of your daughter being on first and showcasing how this is an intimate experience for her, like a truly intimate experience for her. That means everything. And these are the things that are true about intergenerational wealth. It is not about money that they printing for us. It is really not for us. It is about passing down to our children how to cope better than we did, right? How to have peace, beyond what we were able to have, right? How to be vulnerable, right? For the entirety of their lives when we just found in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, right? So I celebrate that piece, Samia. And this second piece that you gave too, the fact that it hit differently than you expected, when I was talking to Jehiel about doing this, and again, for anybody who's just listening or just coming in, Jehiel is the CEO of a company that Blaze Consults. They're our largest corporate client, right? And he said, well, Casey, like me, you want me to speak about this? Like I'm not the expert. And I told him, legit, nobody has figured this out, Jehiel. Nobody has figured out how to cape hard for Black women, but you doing the work. I know you doing the work and figuring it out as you go, because I stay on your neck. Right? And you don't retreat, you don't fold, etc. So we have a responsibility to be the thought leader, since we can't find any. We have a responsibility to talk about what's not working and where we bumped our toe, and that's all we did. That is all we did. We just talked about the things that we've done, some things not right, some things turned out great, right? But I thank you, Samia, for giving feedback, because there's no data on this, that it was effective, right? And I feel you, sis. As you were talking, literally, I thought about my father, and how, I'm about to get emotional. Happy Father's Day to my daddy, and happy Father's Day to all the males out there. Happy Father's Day to your significant males in your lives. I thought about how I spent my entire life, holding and harboring hurt with my dad, about my dad, towards my dad, right? Him never knowing it, right? Because I thought that I had to be strong enough to carry it by myself, right? But there were things that I was upset about my childhood. There were ways I wanted to be protected after my mother was murdered and I was going from house to house that I felt like he didn't show up for me for, right? And then when I got into the latter part of my 20s, after I experienced domestic violence, I moved across the country, all these things, I started therapy for the first time. I started articulating in therapy for the first time how I truly felt. I had never done that before, right? And it broke something in me. It fractured something in me. And so for the first time, I started having vulnerable conversations with my daddy about how I really felt. And I'm his baby girl. He still calls me his baby girl, but it was the first time he'd ever seen me upset with him. And I was screaming, Samia. I was screaming. I never yelled at my daddy, but I was screaming. I was so angry. That's how much pent up anger was on the inside of me, right? And for the first time in my life, right? And this does tie to the conversation with Jehiel, right? Caping Hard for Black women, and how he said, you know, lean into conflict and be honest, you know. For the first time, right, I decided that I wasn't going to clean it up on the other side of that conversation. I wasn't going to call after and act like everything was okay. I was going to leave it up to him to decide how he wanted to carry the load, if at all, right? And months that passed thereafter, right, we talked less than we had before, because Casey made sure that she did not carry. I had to force myself not to put it back on my back. And whatever our relation turned into was going to be the result of both of us showing up, right? And then so after a few months, our conversations picked up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And then, y'all, it was probably a 12 months later, in the middle of the night, my daddy texted me. And his text read, "I'm sorry for not protecting you when you couldn't protect yourself.
Wow.
Thank you for still loving me." That was it.
Wow.
That is why that conversation was worth it. Even though he continued out, like, he was still evolving, right? So it was not my responsibility. We're talking about Black men caping for Black women. It was not my responsibility, right, to force him to change. It was not my responsibility to hold his hand and usher him into how he should show up for me, right? That real conversation hit something inside of him, and over a 12-month period, he finally got it. I know he got it, because those two sentences was what I needed my entire life, right? So y'all speak up, y'all take up space, you give people the opportunity to decide, and whatever they choose to do is not your burden. You lean in if they with it, and you lean out if they not. Love and light to you, Samia.
You too.
Thank you, Mama. All right, we're gonna keep this rolling. Again, we're talking about reflections, reactions, feedback, right? On this session that we just heard, Caping Hard for Black Women, where the first ever male showed up on the stage of the Blaze Virtual Summit. I'm kicking it to you, Mrs. Catherine Young. Mrs. Catherine, I'm thinking some issues that some other people have been having, so try to, here you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you? Oh, I just want to say this has been a wonderful, wonderful thing that I've joined. And this, now you get nervous. But anyway, I couldn't understand why you were so strong. But now that I heard your story, I understand why. Because some women don't have boundaries. They've been taught in their young years, don't say anything, shut up, keep it to yourself. And when they don't do it, they get mental illness and they suffer. So thank you. Because my mother suffered all her life. Okay, because she didn't speak up for herself. And I did not come on here to cry. But thank you. Because it's hard out there. It's hard for the women and it's hard for the men because they get beat down too. And when they get beat down, they beat down their women. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Catherine. I love you. I adore you. And your story is our story. Your mama's story is our story. I adore you. Thank you so much. Ashe and amen. That was good. Tiara, I'm handing you the mic. Reactions and reflections to this fireside chat we just had on Caping Hard for Black women.
Miss Catherine, I love you. And thank you. I just wanted to start with that. Miss Catherine, I love you. I think we got a meeting scheduled, and it's crazy. I just came across her name because I hadn't been seeing it. And I just messaged her. I'm like, hey, so we got a meeting coming up, and I love you and thank you. But to go from there, needed, I feel like, just like how you mentioned in there, you feel like authentic self is overused in LinkedIn. I feel like I would be overusing it right now because it's an understatement, because in the state that we're in right now, there's so many forces that try to put the Black man and the Black woman against each other, and it's strategic. And I'm gonna try not to go too deep because I'm celebrating Father's Day with my fiance, and if we talking about Father's Day, we talking about a man who grew up without a father, and he's raising his first son that was born on his birthday. Come on, legacy. And the way that this man capes for me, stronger than I can cape for myself, I just wish that women knew that was out there. Whether it's not, even if it's not within a spouse or a significant other, it's within a brother that you never got the chance to meet. It's within a cousin. It's within a neighbor. These men are out here caping for us. And I don't want no one to fall into that narrative. So this needs to be seen and it needs to be said, because for me, whenever I get too into my feelings about what's going on around us, and I just want to be like, F anything else that ain't Black, I have to think about the freedom riders, because we didn't sit at those we didn't sit at those posts by ourselves. There was other white people right along the side of us that were caping for us. So we need to know, and we need to show that these men are out here caping for us. So I needed this. We needed this. And I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this. Y'all need to know that they're out here for us. And please don't fall into this narrative, because they're pushing it for a reason. It's strategic, because the strength that's within us, the strength that's within the Black man, the Black woman, and I'm not talking in a relationship standpoint. I'm talking about strictly platonic, strictly cheering for each other, being each other's backbone, falling on each other. Man, that type of strength is going to take over this country. So thank you.
So good, Tiara. I feel the fire in your voice. So go forth in the world and take up space, mama. Super dope. Okay, so I am kicking it over to Nina, my love. Nina, your reactions and reflections to this fireside chat called Caping Hard for Black Women.
Oh, first of all, Tiara just dropped the mic, okay? I don't even know how I'm going to come behind that. All of the women before me have been amazing in their reflections and their responses, and so heartfelt. I just want to start and say that, Casey, that conversation was so necessary. I put in the chat that he gave me Cory Booker vibes. And it took me back to watching that conversation, or that statement that Cory Booker gave during the ceremonies of Justice Brown. And it's so important not only for us to see and feel and understand that there are Black men who are caping for us, but also to show our children that we do not have to have the experiences of our grandmothers and our great grandmothers and our mothers. When I think about Black men caping for women, my grandfather, had one grandfather who beat my grandmother till she was the blackest color of Black, and her skin color was the whitest color of white paper. I had another grandfather who stayed on the bottle. He died an alcoholic. And I know other stories of fathers and Black men and grandfathers who weren't even present. And so it's so important to have those conversations and to see and to feel and to know that those brothers are there, because it changes the story, it changes the narrative, and it changes the trajectory of where our daughters are going to go and what they will know and what they will see. It changes the trajectory of where our sons, what they will become and who they cape for and who they cover and protect. As I've been in and out all session, and Casey, that's not even like me. But I've been here where I can be here, and I think it's so important that we show up for our children. We show up for our children so that we can change the narrative. I'm gonna throw your words back on you, Casey, from last year. You told us that the gag to the game was to show up and open our mouths. So for my children to see how my husband and I communicate with each other through conflict, through good times, through bad times, through struggle, through things that we get right, through things that we get wrong. It's us showing up and opening up our mouths so that they understand how to communicate and to support one another. And it's when we can change that system within our household that we change the community around us. And when we change the community around us, that's when we change the world that we live in. And so I take it back to the words that you gave us last year. The gag gift is showing up and opening our mouths and being examples for our babies that are watching us. They're watching what we do. They're listening to what we say. And so it's that conversation was so necessary. We need more. We need more. We need more of stories like that, of conversations like that, to overpower what we've been taught and what we've been repetitively shown, that our Black men are only good to beat us, to drink alcohol, to do drugs, and to end up in jail. And so we need these conversations. We have to show up for each other just like that each and every time. Casey, I love you. I'm not even gonna get into your flowers. You already know what it is. But I'm telling y'all in the chat, give her flowers now, because she's not gonna hang on at the end of the session to get
I'm
it.
gonna do it differently this time. I promise. I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna have to cover my face, but I'm gonna hang on this time.
I love you, Casey. I love you. I love you, and you mean it.
I love you too, Nina. Thank you so much. Y'all, that's important what Nina said. That is important what Nina said. And it's something that we repeat over and over and over and over and over in the community. That you have to open your mouth. Think about what we learned when around the first of the month, things was tight in the household, but nobody articulated why. So we grow up with these unhealthy relationships and these fear-based relationships with money and bills and spending and all of these things. Think about, right, the conflicts that happen in families and the secrets that are swept under the rug, and nobody explains why, right? So think about the complexes that so many people have about not speaking their truth for protection because they got to protect the family name. Think about that, right? Because nobody's talking about this stuff. Nobody is giving vocabulary to these things, right? Our generation are learning words like post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And anxiety and social anxiety and depression. Our parents didn't have those tools, right? So you have to, like Nina is saying, open your mouth, even in your households, right? Have these conversations so that and again, that is intergenerational wealth. That is legacy, right? So that the next generation can cope better than we did, that they can have interpersonal relationships better than we did, that they can show up in vulnerability, right? Understanding that, yes, your feelings might be hurt, but the ride is worth it anyway. The journey is worth it anyway. So good. I'm gonna be quiet. Gina, I'm bringing you up to hear your reflections and reactions to the Fireside chat that was just had called Caping Hard for Black Women.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Wow, it's just been so many awesome comments. I'm just like processing them in my head, and just even going back to this couple comments that he made. First of all, it was just so awe-inspiring to have a male's perspective, and for him to come on and keep it so real. For him, the beginning, talk about how he came, from the States and his background. So he let you know right away that he's not foreign, in the sense that he's here. It's many more like him here. We can find that. And earlier this week, we talked about finding your tribe, or your tribe finding you. If you don't have a male ally in your network, keep your network open, because that is gold right there. That is gold. The media wants to tell us, like one of the other women just said, media says they're bad, Black men this, Black men that. And now the directive is to continually show them what sexual preference they have. They find every male and put him in a skirt, every Black male, and put him in a skirt or a dress. Well, and trust me, I have nothing wrong with people's sexual preference. But what happened to keeping that in the bedroom? Why is that plastered for our Black men? Because our Black men are more than that. So they are getting beat up from that angle, testing their masculinity. And when they're hurt and beat up, they're bringing it back to the Black women. And it's wrong. It's a vicious, ugly cycle. So when I saw this man today, he was standing there, he's speaking his truth. He was empowering women. He was so strong. And then I think about the other network of men that I've seen in my life that are the same way, but yet media doesn't find them. We never see these men. I mean, you got to search hard and low to find them. So for you to find Jehiel, bring him out today, it was just really gold. It was good. And for me, myself, I want to continue. I have a son that's 22, and that's the kind of man that I've taught him to be, and I want to encourage him to continue to be. And even my extended nephews and those who I don't even know yet, if you have a son, take that obligation and make him that kind of man. Don't accept just what the media gives you. Don't accept that all it can be, Black men can be rappers. No, there's nothing wrong with rap music, but there's more to life. And that's what Jehiel was helping us to see. We could get more out of our Black men if we work with them. They're allies. And we can get farther with them on our side. So yeah, thank you, Casey, for bringing that talent to us. Thank you, all you women who have shared and supported and gotten emotional trying to get your point across. I love that spirit. It touched my heart. And I'm just really enjoying this whole last 4 days summit. I'm hating that it's not on tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing because I'm all in, and this has been fantastic. But thank you. Thank you for finding that for us today. We needed it.
Thank you, Gina. Such good feedback, very robust feedback. So I appreciate you sharing as well. Thank you so much. So good, and I agree. And we'll have to wrap this session there because there are, like I mentioned, right, 2 more talks, and then I'm closing it out. But the nuance is so important, right? We don't need perfection, right? When I was like, Jehiel, let's do this, like I don't need perfection, right? We just talk about where we are because there is nuance, even in the Black male story, right? There's nuance, right? Like there's so many terms and opinions around what masculinity is. We need to tell our own stories, right? Not all men want to be out there with the toolkit. Come on, chefs, come on, the bakers, all of these things, right? Just like women, many women in here, Asia, several other ones, right? We show up in male-dominated spaces, the construction workers, et cetera, right? There's so much nuance to our experiences, right? To our sexualities, right? To our preferences, to our gender identities, all of that, right? Like perfection does not exist. That's what Dr. Cheryl Carr told us today, right? And so Blaze is going to keep creating stages, not just tables, and I challenge all of you to do the same. All right, the final 3 for the whole summit, not just day 5, but the final 3 for the entire summit. Keep it locked. We have 2 more talks from incredible Black women. I am closing it out with my closing keynote called Why Not Me? And then we will announce the official leaders, the winners, the top 15, and it's a wrap. All right, I'll see y'all on the other side. Love you deep. I mean it. Peace.